Welcome back to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I am Devin.
And I'm Nick.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Now, Nicholas. You know me. I love to ask you questions. That's how I get you hooked on this episode.
Well, don't give him the secret, Devin.
So when you're writing a 5-paragraph essay, you want to have a hook. Okay. It could be a dictionary definition, a question, a profound statement, a quote.
We wouldn't really call this mansplaining.
No, it's a teaching moment.
Yes.
Here's my hook, as I write on all of my notes for every episode.
Yes. Do you do like hook, colon, and then the question?
Oh, yeah, and hook is bolded and in all caps.
Oh, God. Do not forget.
Yeah. All right, so here's my question for you to start off the ep. Was there ever a book that you read that made you cry?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. There's been a couple. So I read this book called A Little Life.
Okay.
It's, for those who have read it, it's just very, there's a lot of trauma in it. It's pretty dark.
Sure.
It's like 800 pages.
A light read.
Super summer read, if you will.
Poolside book.
But the author just did an amazing job creating the world and the character development in it. And so while there's a lot of traumatic events that happen and a lot of dark events that happen, it's just kind of a very good story.
Yeah.
And so you get really attached to the characters, and
Sure.
so when turmoil kind of occurs, that tends to happen.
Like, fuck,
yeah. And so I cried during that. I was actually on a plane flying somewhere for work, and I was like finishing it, and I was like, oh my God, I think I still have a mask, and so I'm like pushing my mask into my tears, and I'm like, stop crying. I like pause for a second. And there was another one recently called Tongue of Achilles.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the ending of that is just so touching.
Right.
The way that they're able to kind of pull things together, and just the love of Achilles and Patroclus in the book. And so that one got me. I'll give it to him. That Madeline Miller. What about you?
I don't recall anything recently. I'm sure there was. But the one that I remember the most is the first book that I read that made me cry.
Oh.
And this was in elementary school.
Elementary school?
Yeah, I borrowed it from the school library. The old LRC, the Learning Reading Center. And the book was called The Last Wolf of Ireland by Ilona Maltier.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Okay, so I love wolves. Wolves are like one of my 3 favorite animals. It's wolves, bears, and whales.
Love it.
And
you have no wolf tattoos.
I know, that's my next one I gotta do. I realized that.
On your chest.
Yeah, just a big wolf.
Yeah.
You fuck with one, you fuck with the pack. Or just alpha wolf.
Or just yeehaw, fuck the law.
That too. I want a tattoo of a wolf driving my red pickup.
Yes.
With
personified, wolf.
I don't know why. So I don't know why I was like, oh, this is going to be a great book for me to read. I think I was just excited, 1, that I was reading, and 2, that it was about wolves. I was like,
Sure.
oh, I love wolves.
Yeah.
And the kicker too was that I was like, one of the main characters' names was Devin, spelled exactly the way that I spell it.
Incredible.
So it was an Irish way of spelling it, Irish Devin. I don't remember the girl's name in the book, but I just remember Devin. And, the title of the book is The Last Wolf of Ireland. So you kind of expect what happens.
Right.
And, the book, I believe, ends with, the book follows, these 2 little Irish kids, coming across a wolf mom and her pups, and they, kind of befriend them in a sense. Not they tussle and wrestle like Mowgli in the Jungle Book, but, they just, observe and, wow. Fantastic.
Sure.
But then this hunter winds up killing them all, and that's how the book kind of ends, is with the last wolf of Ireland, end of the book. And it's I was just so sad about all of these wolves and wolf pups dying. I was like, why did I read this?
That is so sad.
So yeah.
Also, spoiler alert.
Sorry, it's a very old book, so get out there.
If you haven't read it by now.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's meant for
Children?
8-year-olds. Yeah.
Sure. Also, just like a kind of heavy for
Yeah, it
children.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so that was the book that made me cry. And like it was a point in my life as a young boy where like, oh, boys don't cry. Like you can't cry. Blah, 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 blah. And I was just like,
Just tears.
yeah.
Do you feel like movies make you cry more than books?
Maybe because it's more of like the visual of like, you know, like when you see someone yawn, you're gonna yawn. So like when you see someone crying on TV, you might cry.
Fair.
Kind of thing. So I'm gonna say yes, but I'm not too sure.
Okay, that's fair.
How about you? Because I feel like the visual has a little bit more to do with it, but
definitely, I think for me, it's not always. I think it's more like the story and the like how it's written more so than just kind of like the empathetic visual component. Other than like secondhand embarrassment, like that went rampant with me. But yeah, and of course, it started like when I was young, like when. My dad tells the story about he came into like my grandparents' the parlor, the living room, and I was watching a movie and I was crying and he was like, "Are you okay? Like, what's wrong?" And apparently I was watching Titanic, which I was like, "Why as a child was I watching Titanic?" And then I was crying because Jack died.
Yeah.
And I said, first of all, you didn't know then,
right?
Second
That's
of all,
what I was gonna say.
Second of all, I think it's like that kind of, you know what I mean? It's like the culmination of those things that happen. But yeah, I get it. I also feel like we consume more movies and television than books sometimes.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked about that is I wanted to ask my titular question.
Yes.
What do you know about rewilding?
Rewilding?
Rewilding.
No idea.
Perfect. Love it.
Literally zero.
Well, I'll get into it then.
The only thing I thought of was Wildin', which from Rihanna and Kanye's 4 or 5 seconds.
Definitely not talking about that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Can we underplay it through the episode?
Yeah, I'll buy the rights.
Perfect.
So I'm going to talk to you about rewilding, and I'm going to start it off with telling you a story. We're going to go from there.
Nice. Did you write this story?
No, it's a very factual story.
Okay.
And by story, I mean this is events, and historical events.
This is just a list of facts. Got it.
So, the last wolves of Yellowstone were killed in 1926. It was confirmed by scientists and other reports that while there was some sporadic wolf activity in the area, a sustainable gray wolf population had been destroyed. The wolf was absent from Yellowstone and across 48 states.
It's insane.
The ecological impacts of their absence were felt immediately. Scientists who visited the park in 1929 and 1933 reported, quote, "The range was in deplorable conditions when we first saw it, and its deterioration has been progressing steadily since then," end quote. Mm-hmm. And which is crazy to think that just like last wolf, 1926, this report coming in 1929, so 3 years, already a deep decline.
Yeah.
With the absence of the wolf, the elk population began to rise, which led to overgrazing of many woody species such as aspen and cottonwood. Many biologists were worried about erosion and keeping the native plant population healthy. So without plants, without trees and whatever, the ground and the earth can just erode away much easier to weather wind, rain, etc.
Sure.
Efforts to control the deer and elk population evolved from trapping and moving to trapping and killing, which continued on for over 30 years. While this did help a little bit, the overall condition of the park was still in the decline. It just wasn't enough of an effort by killing these elk to restore the park to its former glory.
Got it. Okay.
So the idea to reintroduce the wolf. They were like, well, they're the missing factor. Let's bring it back. So the idea to reintroduce the wolf as a method of elk control was brought up several times, but often dismissed since it was so difficult to remove them in the first place.
Got it.
So the hunting of the elk population continued well into the 1960s.
Oh my God.
But at that point, local hunters began to complain that there were just too few elk to hunt.
Okay.
And so the hunters complained to their local congressman.
Okay.
And that congressman threatened to pull funding from the Yellowstone. And so killing elk as a control method ended. This made the elk population rise once again, and this made the conditions of the park fall once again.
Yeah.
Kind of a cycle of sorts.
I'm curious. So the wolf population dying out in Yellowstone was due to hunting, or was due to lack of food, or what was that?
It was deliberate. It was hunting. It was trapping and removing. It was just getting rid of the wolf population
due to its what's the word I'm looking for, like safety, or like they didn't want them.
Yeah, it was for the civilian population, for farmers, for
got it. Okay,
a couple different a numerous amount of reasons.
Okay.
But they just thought it was the best solution was to remove the predator.
Got it. Okay.
Safety, etc.
Yeah.
But without the wolves to act as a top predator in the area, coyote populations also increased, which affected the populations of the pronghorn, antelope, and many other smaller creatures. So just by removing one key piece of the ecological system, everything seems to just go out of whack, get out of balance. Because it's not like they... I mentioned the cougar later, but like they didn't remove the cougar. The cougar was still running around. You still have other predators. You have cougar, bears, coyotes. Like there's still other dangerous creatures. Hell, even like elk can be dangerous, like...
Sure. Jump right into.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of this weird prejudice against the wolf.
Got it.
Recognizing this problem, we come to 1966, and there is the passing of the Endangered Species Preservation Act of 1966.
Okay.
And within this act, the gray wolf was one of the first species to be listed as endangered. However, it wasn't until the Endangered Species Act of 1973 that there was legal basis for the reintroduction of the gray wolf into the national park.
Okay.
Also, quick tangent. How do you spell gray?
G-R-E-A? Or G-R-E-Y? Or if it's a last name, it's usually G-R-A-Y. If it's the color gray, I think I do G-R-E-Y.
Interesting.
How do you spell it?
I usually do E, but I guess A-Y is the American way and E-Y is the English way.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I saw a really fun post where it was like G-R-E-Y in their head is more, if I'm remembering this correctly, is more like cool gray, and then G-R-A-Y is more like warm gray.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, I like that.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Which, did you see the video of how do you picture the calendar in your head?
I did.
Okay, how do you picture the calendar in your head?
So it's kind of, I had this conversation with Allie, and I picture it like a cartoon. Like, when... like in cartoons, especially the older ones, where it's just like flipping through the days.
Okay,
and the months or whatever. That's how I picture it.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
just like tear away.
Crazy. Okay, it's interesting that you imagine it like in such a visual, like active component.
Oh yeah, it's fully animated. in the style of like old Looney Tunes cartoons.
Incredible. That's awesome.
What about you?
I do. It's really weird.
Do you do the circle or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, it's January, February, March, April, May, but as if like everything's facing you. So like you can read it perfectly. So there's like a title, it says like the month here and then the days like that.
Okay.
But I visualize it like on its horizontal like that, like facing to the left. And then June flips and then it's straight down June, July, August. And then it flips again and then it's September, October, and then November's like this and then December.
So it doesn't have like a horseshoe table that you walk around to look at all the dates.
All connects in a square, but obviously that doesn't make sense because you can't go from January to May or really June,
right? And
then have like August through November on this side.
It's a weird quadrilateral.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. But that's how I picture it.
Right on.
Super strange. Yeah. That's it. That's all I've always done it.
Well, back to wolves. So we get the legal basis for the reintroduction of the gray wolf, which is what we've been wanting and thinking to do all along.
Yeah.
There just wasn't any legal ability to do so. So now we have the Endangered Species Act of 1973, and this act forced the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to develop and deploy restoration plans for each species designated as endangered on that list. So let's clear that list out.
Yeah.
And that includes, of course, the gray wolf.
Yeah.
So once the act was passed, there were some plans crafted and implemented here and there, but none of them really gained enough traction to make a real impact for quite some time. But the good news is by 1994, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service came up with a plan that was proposed in an environmental impact statement, or an EIS, to successfully reintroduce the gray wolf to the Yellowstone area. So this plan took place in January of 1995.
Okay.
In 95, 14 wolves were captured in Canada.
Okay.
And brought to 3 acclimation pens across the national park. By March, the pens were opened, and all 14 wolves were let loose into Yellowstone.
Okay.
17 more wolves went through the same process in 96, adding to the numbers. Again, being captured into those acclimation pens so they could get used to their environment, and then let loose. Now, these acclimation pens aren't just like tiny little dog cages.
Sure.
Just clarifying for everybody.
Acres of
land. Yeah. There's some space for them to run around and whatnot. Now, since their release back into the wild, scientists and rangers alike have kept track of the wolf population, including total number of packs in the park area.
Okay.
As of last year, 2023, there are 11 different packs consisting of 124 total wolves, wild and free within Yellowstone and its surrounding area.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Which it's kind of fluctuated. The population numbers have fluctuated. I think the highest number where it kind of like it was just climbing was like 140 something.
Okay.
And then just like dipped drastically because it was just overpopulation. Different things can affect the wolf population of like resources. There might have been like a disease that ran through other predators, etc. Yeah. Too much competition where it kind of had to reach that point, drop, and then find its balance. Kind of expected.
Yeah.
But 124 is kind of where the sweet spot.
Interesting. Okay.
The impact of these wolves that have had on the ecology of the park is astounding. Now, I'm sure this story kind of might sound familiar to some of you. It might have come across your social media feeds as a dodo video or like a now this video.
Sure.
Something similar. But a balance returned to the park. The elk and deer population went down, which allowed the plants, trees included, to return to their normal strength, which reduced erosion. Coyote population also reduced to its normal size, and the coyotes wound up returning to their normal territory.
Nice.
The with the wolves keeping the coyotes in check, the fox were able to thrive, and the increase in fox population, quote, in turn shifts the odds of survival for coyote prey such as hares and young deer, as well as for the small rodents and ground nesting birds the foxes stalk. These changes affect how often certain roots, buds, seeds, and insects get eaten, which alters the balance of local plant communities, and so on down the food chain all the way to fungi and microbes, end quote.
Oh my God.
And so you have the coyotes, the foxes, the beavers are moving back in town as well, which affects the rivers, of course.
Right.
Scavengers have also made a marginal comeback, such as ravens, wolverines, eagles, and many others, feeding off the wolves' hunt.
Sure.
The wolves have also driven the cougar back to its more traditional mountainside territory. The impact of reintroducing the gray wolf into the ecosystem is truly impressive.
No, that's incredible. I mean, and so quickly. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, and it's just, I think it's also wild that they noted it in 1929 and then nothing happened until 1995. Like, that's crazy.
Right. And they were just like, well, we'll watch it fall apart.
Right. And then all of a sudden we're like,
Nothing to do.
maybe we should do something
Right.
about this? Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, on May 4th, 2008, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recognized the success of their plan and officially changed the status of the gray wolf from endangered to experimental population non-essential. Or, to put it in layman's terms, quote, this isn't even layman's term, this is what it means. Quote, a population that has been established within its historical range under Section 10J of the ESA to aid recovery of the species, end quote.
Yes. That definition.
Section 10J, yes.
How could I forget?
Now, this is kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, getting taken off the endangered list. While, yes, the population is at a more sustainable level, there is now limited legal hunting of the gray wolf in certain areas. But, like, don't.
Right.
Unless, like, if you're protecting your livestock and safety, blah, 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 blah. But,
Sure.
like, don't.
I just don't understand. I get hunting and then like you use it, right? Like
Of
you hunt
course.
deer and then you dress it and you use all of
Yeah,
it, whatever.
yeah.
But you're not going to use wolf meat, right? Like,
Right.
so what are you hunting a wolf for? Just to hunt a wolf?
Yeah.
Like, get over yourself.
Just to stuff it and put it on your wall.
Right. For what reason? I guarantee you I can buy you a cheaper version that's already been stuffed. Like, why do you know what I mean? Like, I just
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of odd. I get that hunting is kind of a hobby of sorts. It's an activity. Some call it a sport, like that sort of thing. But like, unless it's for population control, unless you're utilizing the animal,
Right.
I just don't understand.
I'm not the one to ask.
I mean,
'Cause
very
don't.
fair, because you don't hunt,
Yeah.
nor do you condone hunting.
So how was this rewilding? That is the topic of today's episode, after all.
Yeah.
Well, rewilding is, quote, a form of ecological restoration aimed at increasing biodiversity and restoring natural processes, end quote.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah. It's it's all to restore the environment and the park or whatever you're trying to restore to what it used to be before we got our little grubby paws in there. Rewilding is meant to have little to no human influence on the healing of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And instead just kind of let nature take its course with maybe just a slight helping hand.
Little nudge.
A little nudge. Now, there are a few different types of rewilding.
Okay.
Passive rewilding, which is to restore the natural ecosystem with minimal or no direct human management.
Sure.
Active rewilding, which I think we can all take a guess as to what that is. But it's more of like a larger umbrella type term used to describe different processes that involve human action, including species reintroductions like the wolf, habitat engineering, or removal of man-made structures.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this parking lot's not used anymore. Destroy it, plant some shit
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of stuff.
Ah, yes. The old
Plant some
destroy
shit.
it and plant some shit. How could I forget?
And then there's also trophic rewilding, TROPHIC.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't mess up tropic. It's trophic.
Like, I know what I'm fucking saying, okay?
So this was essentially what happened with the reintroduction of the wolves, where the ecosystem is able to self-regulate once balance has been restored.
Sure.
And then there is Pleistocene rewilding. Spell that out for the people back home. Pleistocene rewilding. And this is essentially the reintroduction of extinct megafauna, or as close as you can get, to that animal. They might be extinct in the region, but not elsewhere in the world. So just kind of like putting them back.
Got it. Okay.
Or just getting their closest relative.
Yeah.
So rewilding aims to restore 3 key ecological processes. Trophic complexity, and remember that's with a pH. That essentially means making the food web more diverse.
Okay.
Dispersal, and then stochastic disturbances, which I know, $5 word, is, quote, the introduction of randomness into a system or model, which can affect the behavior or output of that system in unpredictable ways, end quote.
That's what stochastic means?
Stochastic.
Interesting.
Apparently.
Okay, so random re-entry sort of thing?
Yeah. Think of like chaos theory from Jurassic Park.
Sure. I like that it's chaos theory from Jurassic Park, not just generally chaos theory. Yeah.
You know,
you get it.
So one rewilding project currently going on is to restore the plains of our country, the United States, by introducing wild bison and other large mammals that have historically lived there.
The bison.
That's even happening here in Illinois. There are some bison being introduced here.
We had bison in Illinois?
Well, they put them in Will County. But yeah, no, there was a bunch of...
You say in Will County?
Yes.
Not like in central southern Illinois?
No, there's...
right down the street?
It's like 20 minutes away from here.
Have you gone to see the bison?
I haven't yet. They were only introduced, I want to say last year.
Okay.
And they're on a hiking path. Like you can go and hike, and like they're in kind of I'm going to say they're in one of those acclimation pens type situation.
That's what you called it, yeah.
But yeah, you can go on a forest preserve path, a Will County Forest Preserve path, and it's like a 22-ish mile hike path to maybe see them. You may or may not see them. There's not that many in number yet. But yeah, you can go see them.
Crazy. You gotta go see the bison. We gotta go see the bison.
I know. I'm working my way up to hiking 22 miles. Okay.
Not that bad. That won't take you a little bit of time.
I'll bring a couple PB&Js.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Yeah, so that's what's one of the many rewilding projects that are happening today. There are a bunch that you should look up if you're interested. It's really interesting to see what animals and other flora and fauna that they're trying to reintroduce all across the globe.
Yeah.
So the idea of rewilding isn't new, and there are mountains of conclusive evidence as to its benefits to the ecosystem. It's so successful that it's even considered part of the solution of climate change. Now I say part of because we all know that large corporations are to blame for, what is this, like 70%?
Correct.
Yeah, 70% of the climate-related issues. So, fuck them.
It's super crazy how like the smallest of things could really change the direction of climate change.
Yeah. Just one simple switch.
Anyway.
Yeah. Of course, there is some criticism towards these projects.
Okay.
Sometimes, as was the case with the gray wolves of Yellowstone, the exact species isn't able to be reintroduced, so people are kind of worried about those ramifications. Like, they reintroduced a gray wolf, but there was like some Latin word that wasn't the same as the original gray wolf that was in that area.
Sure.
And so people like, historical accuracy kind of thing. But like, it was more along I kind of understand it, where it was more along the lines of this area didn't have that very specific animal. So what happens if we reintroduce something that wasn't there?
Sure. But also, if the initial gray wolf is no longer around,
right? How do you do that?
What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so those people are worried about the ramifications of introducing a quote-unquote new species.
Got it.
Doing further harm to other endangered and protected species.
Okay. Fair-ish, yeah. I get the let's note it as a potential risk, but I just don't think it's necessary to be like, this should pause rewilding altogether because
Fuck
of it.
the environment because of this.
Right, just be strategic about it and keep it as an assumption.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's part of what one of the reasons for the acclimation pens is like, okay, so what environmental impact is this species going to have when we reintroduce them?
Right.
As well as getting this species acclimated.
Right.
So, other people that have criticized rewilding are, of course, farmers worried about their livestock and the loss of potential farming land, which I'm like, fuck off.
Okay.
I mean, I get it, but like, we produce so much food, and so much of it is thrown away. Everyone could eat for free.
Very true.
We don't need more farmland. We just need a better system.
Right.
Anyway, I told you this one was going to get a little political.
I mean, fine. Environmental politics, absolutely.
And then, of course, this one I hate the most is that some folks think we're erasing. I'm just having trouble understanding this, so I'm just going to read what I wrote.
Okay.
Some folks think we're erasing human fingerprints on the earth. That has affected the flora and fauna of our world. They're worried about erasing the human touch that we've put all over, we've gotten our grubby hands all over the environment in, and they're like, oh, but we've done our part. We're part of nature. It's like,
no, the issue is that we're a super predator.
Right.
Right. So we can dominate and control so much.
Right.
But the ability to do that in a positive or negative way is for our judgment. And more often than not, if we've done it in a negative way, it's our duty to
fix it.
To fix it.
Right. I always akin the human race to almost a virus on the earth. And where it's but the difference between us and a virus is that we have the ability to fix our mistakes.
Correct.
And better our host.
Right. I mean, that's what the future is all about, right? Is fixing the mistakes of the past. And so in 1926, when we said wolves are scary, so we need to
kill them all.
We need to kill them. But then in 1929 and on until 1995, we realized that, hey, this is actually and science got better. We learned more things, more studies came out. Then we fix it.
Yeah.
Right. That's our, but that's also a new version of our fingerprint.
Right.
You know what I mean? Rewilding is something that is man-made in and of itself, even though it's more rooted in recreating an original ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So those people can fuck off.
Yeah,
How about that?
I hate those people.
Yeah. Fuck those people.
Overall, I think you can gather that I think this is a really neat project.
Yeah.
For humans to partake in.
What if you're like, it's okay.
Fuck rewilding.
Yeah. I'm one of those people. Yeah.
Mask off.
Yeah.
Wolves are, like I said, one of my top 3 favorite animals. So hearing this story that I told you earlier makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I love having them back. Maybe in my lifetime, I'll be able to see a saiga antelope wandering North America. It is one of the creatures that they are trying to rewild across the globe. It's this antelope. You might have seen it before. It's a really weird one. It has almost like a prehensile nose. Prehensile nose.
Yes.
It almost has double trunks.
It
really
feels
weird
like
looking.
A Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely.
Aspect, yeah.
Apparently, they at one point used to roam all the way from Alaska to France. So crazy.
Oh, when it was Pangea, got it.
Right. And like I said earlier, I already get the chance to see wild bison just 20 minutes from my home.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, and I would love to know. I'm just excited to find out what our world could look like if we just keep taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
So go support your local forest preserves and be better to nature.
Yeah, conservationism at its finest.
Yeah.
Where was the rewilding is happening through what agency again? It's not Fish and Wildlife.
It's a couple different
Is it parks?
groups. It's
okay.
It's anyone and everyone. It's
It's more
national
of just-
parks. It's
okay.
U.S. Fish and Wild Service because they are kind of forced to do it based off of the Endangered Species Act.
Sure.
Not forced, but like implored to.
Sure.
There are other different private groups that are trying to do this as well. So.
Fair. Okay. That makes sense. It's more of a concept that people have adapted. Groups
Yeah,
have
it's
adapted.
not just
Yeah.
one person doing it. It's
Right.
just everyone who cares about the earth is trying
Yeah.
to do it.
That's awesome. I love that. So,
Yeah.
and it has permeated like across the globe, not just in the U.S.
Yeah. There's even like there was a European bison that they're trying to reintroduce over there as well, and like
Okay.
all sorts of other animals and whatnot.
That's crazy.
And I know like another different project is to essentially like re-green Africa. Because the
wow.
desert has spread so far across the continent,
Yeah.
to almost a dangerous level where it wasn't like that before. It's there have been so much erosion and so many other factors, historical factors leading to the spread of the desert. That is like, okay, we need to combat that before the whole continent is just one desert.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think they'll start doing some cloud seeding?
somewhat.
Cloud seeding?
What is that?
Basically like man-made clouds and rain.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be intense.
Yeah, we'll do an episode on it. Or
Okay.
a topic on it. Yeah, it's interesting. I think they were doing it in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
But it's weird because one, that it's possible.
Yeah.
Two, like how much can we affect the climate if
Yeah.
we're the ones controlling,
Right.
pseudo-controlling weather? You know what I mean? Like when you think about like droughts in California or even like regreening Africa, like what does that look like? And can cloud seeding be something that's a positive thing or
Right.
does it get out of hand?
Can we make it rain meatballs?
You know? I don't know.
You know?
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, thanks for
Wrap it up.
That's all I have to
derailed,
say.
yeah.
Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening. Check out Rewilding projects near you.
Yeah.
Go take a hike. Go take a
Go take a hike.
Get out there, enjoy nature.
Go see a bison.
Yeah, go see a bison. Make sure if you are on a hike to wear headphones while you're listening to our podcast. Don't bother people.
Blast it. And they're going to say, who is that
are those funny
amazing?
guys?
Yeah, those two guys.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Check us out at WDYK_podcast across all social platforms. Like, subscribe, give us a rating, shoot us a DM. Let us know what you think. Another topic. If you
Slide
have my
right
number, you can text me topics. That's fine too.
As we've learned. Yes.
And thanks, Nick, for listening.
Thanks, Dev.
And see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.